Hey, John, welcome to the WP Minute.
Matt, thanks for having me, man. Great to meet you finally.
So for folks that don't know, you have run an agency for quite some time. You don't do that specifically anymore, but now you have this sort of like turnkey solution, productized service, done-for-you service called EditorNinja. Explain, is that more of like an agency with EditorNinja, or do you like really look at it as productized, done-for-you kind of service?
It kind of depends on what your definition is of those. I would say it's probably more of a done for you service, but I message it as an agency. We don't do any strategy or anything like that at this point, but so I say we're a production shop, so we come alongside agencies and marketing teams to help them produce more on-brand content. So kind of an agency, kind of a done for you service, kind of a productized service. I don't know, somewhere in there.
What year did EditorNinja start?
EditorNinja started in about 5 years ago, springish of 2020. So it was kind of a side project for a while alongside another agency that I had. I formalized EditorNinja at the end of 2021, started 2022. So we launched January 7th of 2022 is when I launched like the initial kind of design pickle-esque productized service. And we went from nothing to 1,000 MRR the day that we launched. And then, it was a side project that started taking more and more of my time through 2022. I sold my other agency September of 2022 and went full-time on EditorNinja a little over 2 years ago, January 2023.
So looking at the pricing page of EditorNinja, there are two letters that gets everybody's attention these days. That's AI. I see $250 per AI article. I want to get to that. We're going to hold the AI stuff for a moment. What was the name of the agency you ran before starting EditorNinja?
Previous agency was called Credo, getcredo.com. So basically did lead generation for marketing agencies, really focused on SEO projects, content marketing, Google ads and Facebook ads are kind of the four main that we kind of like focus down on, and sending them to agencies paying us for leads. And we got kind of a cut on the back end. So I built that for about 7 years. So I used to work full-time in SEO and kind of digital marketing for an agency in New York, and then for Zillow for a couple of years. I got laid off from there, September of 2015. Went full-time on, it was called HireGun at the time, rebranded it to Credo about 4 months later, and basically built that over the next number of years. The reason why I started EditorNinja, burning out, and when you burn out, you start a new company, I guess, or at least that's what I did. Basically, Credo got to the point where like it kind of hit about $500,000 in revenue, and I just couldn't get it over that hump. And I've been working on it for so long. I like had a business partner who then stepped away from the business, and I just didn't have any energy left on it, man. So I got fortunate enough to sell it to a micro private equity company that owned one of our largest customers. And and EditorNinja was just like, I needed something to kind of reinvigorate me on work, and kind of had this idea and had been blogging for a long time and knew a lot of content agencies. And and so I know Russ from Design Pickle, and was like, I wonder if this could work, like that model could work in this space. So I launched it and just decided to see what it could be.
Do you remember specifically that burnout? Because I think it hits everybody, right? Like hits me multiple times a day. Just want to like end, all the content stuff that I do. But I think it, sort of varies depending on whatever, like those, it's internal stress, but external stress is in terms of like, it's tough running a business that can get you going. It's tough building the workflows, finding the product, like optimizing this thing and repeating that year after year. So I think these things can be, dealing with clients, of course. So I'm wondering, like, do you remember how this sort of like creeped into your entrepreneurial journey early on?
So this was true burnout. Like it took me 2+ years to recover from it after I sold that agency. For me, it was basically like, I'm a growth guy. I mean, I'm a marketing guy. It's like, it's what I do. And I spent years and hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to get the thing to grow. And it just wouldn't. And basically what I realized after the fact was like and part of it was like, we had so many agencies wanting leads from us, and I couldn't fulfill it. Like I couldn't figure out how to generate more leads. What I realized after the fact, after I kind of came out of the fog of, all of it, was the economics of that business shifted under my feet through the pandemic, and I couldn't see it. I didn't realize it. So it just got so much more expensive to generate leads. People were so much more skeptical. It got so much more competitive. I mean, every Tom, Dick, and Harry like has a lead generation company even at this point, right? So like everyone was saying like we can do this. They're promising the world. They're charging nothing. They couldn't deliver, and I was just frustrated. Constantly frustrated. We tried a bunch of different things. I launched a course which added some like thousands of dollars in revenue. We launched a low end like lead offer, like all this stuff. But I was just doing all these things really just to keep the business steady, and it just wouldn't. Nothing grew it. And I couldn't do it anymore. I was so done. So yeah, so I got fortunate enough to sell it and then move full time onto EditorNinja. And yeah, in the time between like selling Credo and moving full time onto EditorNinja, ChatGPT launched. So it changed the game, but we can get into that.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get into the ChatGPT and AI stuff. I think for the folks in the WordPress space, oftentimes, like the challenges of running a business, whether it's like a small freelance agency business or a small plugin, we really kind of like fall in love with the process, which also makes it really hard to the process, the technology, the community. We just, I think a lot of people just like romanticize this space because we've been in it for so long. We've been building this business for so long, whatever. And it's hard to recognize when things aren't growing, when that failure is happening. We kind of feel it, but we aren't recognizing it, or the burnout, right? The failure and challenges. I just want to make sure there's two distinct paths there. So do you remember like this distinct inflection point in your journey where you're like, oh yeah, this is actually hitting? Was it like you looking at the balance sheet going, oh, this is not like working as a business, or was it like something else that was happening?
I would say it's much deeper than that. I'd say it's actually when what you want it to be and what you want it to mean in your life isn't reality. What I mean by that is like, so there are a lot of, I know a lot of developers, I know a lot of the big WordPress, plugin creators and all that. And a lot of them, they're like, yo, I'm happy. Like this thing's making me $150K a year. I don't have to deal with anybody else. Like it's pretty automated. I can build some features and all of that. I can do a little bit of marketing when I feel like it, and I'm good. Right. And if that's you, like, awesome. Guess what? You've won. Like you've won the game. But if it's at $150K a year and you want it to be at 15 million a year and you have no idea how to get it there, probably time to burn the boats, and, or not burn the boats in terms of like go all in on it necessarily, but like might be time to do something else, to like, to shut it down or to realign your expectations. Right. Because Credo was like $500,000-ish a year in revenue, which was great. But I wanted it to be 5 million a year and I couldn't get it there. And so that was like, that disconnect is what really like did it for me. I'm not happy just making 150K a year. I want to be way more successful than that. And like that vehicle wasn't going to get me there. So EditorNinja might, at least like the possibility of it getting there was way more attractive than the reality that Credo was not going to get me there.
So as a former agency owner for a decade, like I totally can see like where the systems break down or you have no systems at all. There's no process. There's no optimization of like finding clients, pre-sell clients, onboard clients, start to build a project, iterate on the project, support, launch, all of this stuff. And I think this is what's so appealing about a productized service, or simply just like working on the business instead of working in the business, to use a cliche phrase. But I'm curious how much like going into EditorNinja versus Credo, where you felt like, well, if I make this like a productized service, or I at least build these systems around it, I'll be able to be happier and more successful with this business. Like when you went into EditorNinja, how much of that was on your mind?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of that. And I would actually say that productization is much more about how you deliver the thing rather than like how you price it and all of that. Productization also does not, and this is a common misconception, is productization does not cut off the possibility of doing custom work as well, right? Like, because we have our pricing set out, but we have people that come to us and they're like, hey, I need 250,000 words a month for the next 4 months. I'll quote that. That's fine, right? And like, and we've had some of those, and so I can do that. And so I have like an enterprise like offering, right? It's like you have something big, something custom, let's chat about it. So, but for us, but productization is all about just how you deliver it at scale, but also like your pricing should mean that it's profitable. I think for a lot of agencies though, it's two things. One is they need to define what they do and who they do it for. And I'll be completely honest, Matt. I'm going through this process right now. It's like we've gotten to mid to high six figures a year with EditorNinja right now in just about a couple years. So I've kind of gotten to the point where Credo got to. And so now it's like, okay, who do we best serve and what do they want and what are they willing to pay? So I'm literally going through that right now over the last couple of weeks, talking to a lot of like agency owners and marketing leaders and that kind of thing. So there's that, like you need to focus down on like what specifically do they want to buy? How do they want to buy it, right? And then how can you deliver that at scale? But for a lot of agencies, they need to differentiate themselves from others, right? If you're just a WordPress agency working on, B2B websites, like you're not differentiated at all. Your pricing is going to become a race to the bottom. You got to figure out who do you provide the most value for, and then your prices can go up. And so really for most agencies, it's not about cutting costs necessarily, because what I see is especially a lot of small agencies, they can't cut people and keep delivering work and all that, right? So what happens? You need to raise your prices so you can get that margin in place. And that comes through messaging changes. It comes through targeting people that have more budget, that kind of thing. And I get the like, but I want to help the little guy. Like, yeah, me too. But like, they don't really have any money. And I mean, you and I both know, like the people that have the lowest amount of the least money, they're going to want the most. They're going to need everything because it's their last dollar. It has to work. And they're going to be the quickest to churn. So, as much as like I want to help out the little guy as well, like the big guys are the ones that can pay, that value it the most. And so, you kind of got to pick which one you want to focus on.
All right, we're kind of like halfway through the episode right now, and I realize I haven't defined what EditorNinja is. So what is EditorNinja? What's the value prop?
Yeah. So we're a content editing and writing company. We started just focusing on editing. So companies that are already producing content. So it usually means they're producing 20, 40, 60 plus articles a month. We have some that are doing more than that. And they either have like one in-house editor and they can't handle all the volume, or they sign on a big client and they can no longer handle the volume, or their editor left and they can no longer handle the volume. Those are our best customers, people that come in and they're like, we've never worked with an editor before. I'm like, I don't know if we're the right fit for you, right? Like go hire a couple freelancers and then come back to us, right? So we're kind of that middle stage between like freelancers and like having someone's full-time in-house. And then usually the ones that have someone full-time in-house then need the support that we offer. So we do that. It's a lot of like marketing blog articles, service pages, that sort of thing. I layered on writing, so blog article writing mainly about a year ago, just because we were getting requests for it and agencies kind of want it all like in one place. So we offer human written and also AI generated with a heavy like human like editing layer on it as well. We offer that as well. And that side of the business has actually grown really well. So at this point, like we mentioned at the start, productized, like, started as kind of a productized, like on demand, unlimited, like the unlimited model. Editing got us to a certain point, but it was tough. Churn was really high. And so kind of what we've settled down to is like, we'll do that on like, a significant volume of content. But a lot of people want an editor to work directly in their already established services. So we have what we call a dedicated editor. So basically it's kind of an hourly model. You buy a chunk of hours. And then if you go over that, then we basically bill by the hour. And then on the writing side, very, very similar sort of thing. So you give us the brief, you give us the keywords you're going after, give us the style guide, all of that. And then we go and write it and put it through our human editing layer as well.
All right. So I have to admit, for all of my WordPress career, going back to my agency and then working at Pagely and podcast hosting company and now at Gravity Forms, I often hear marketing teams, clients, and myself say, I need a writer. I need somebody to create content, put it on a page, and hopefully that helps us rank in SEO and informs our customers and our potential customers. I never hear anybody ask or look for, I need an editor to assist. So what's the value prop to get somebody to say, oh, I need an editor now? Like, are you spending time convincing them they need an editor, or are they coming through the doors these days?
Yeah, I mean, they do need words on a page. So like, I wouldn't say that that's not a thing. And that's actually part of why I launched the writing side. But on the editing side, basically what it comes down to is your content, is it correct? Is it updated? Is it, is it correct? Basically is the big thing. Like, is it on brand? So are all of your headings formatted the same? Like, Is it free of typos? Like, are commas where they should be? All of that. And really, those are the details that when you're writing, you really don't see, but those are the ones that can make or break basically the performance of that content. Not necessarily from like a ranking perspective. And I think too many people are still too focused on like, is it going to rank in Google? Like, yeah, that's important. But like, if it ranks in Google and then they come and it's unclear what you do and it's unclear what your arguments are, unclear what you're trying to say, and you've got typos and unfinished thoughts and all of that, that content's not going to convert for you. And so it's basically worthless. So that's where an editor comes in, basically about like, hey, this doesn't really make sense. We should have an internal link here. We should get an expert quote here, like that sort of thing. And that's where content really like goes to the next level and shines. Because anyone can crank out like a bunch of generic crap with AI these days, right? So what stands out is the stuff that's actually like first person, it's clear what you're trying to say, has experts in it, all of that. And that's where an editor really comes in.
Again, I'll use the EditorNinja page as a learning device for the listeners. One of the things I really like is you just can't go to your pricing page and just sign up, right? There's no just like buy now, put your credit card in. It's have a call, have a discussion. Why? Why do you have that and not just a quick sign up? Because
people want to know who's doing it for them. And a lot of people everyone thinks that they're a special snowflake, right? Like I've talked to enough people at this point that I'm like, there's nothing that you're going to come to me with content that I haven't heard before. I mean, I've been in the space for 15 years. So like, but people want to, they want to know like specifically like, how does this work? Who am I going to be working with? What is my pricing like? That sort of thing. We have had various like self sign up options in the past, but we just got a bunch of junk and it was a bunch of spam and it was low quality stuff and expectations weren't set and all of that. So we just decided, hey, let's make it a sales led motion. Let's actually talk with them about what they need. And then basically we have these different like kind of modules or elements of what we do. So like the writing plus editing, we have a few that they're like, we need articles. And usually it's like, we need 20 some articles over the course of a quarter, right? Like I thought it was going to be neater. One of my hypotheses at the start was like, people are producing like 4 or 8 or 12 articles a month. And so that's like kind of the consistent editing that they need. What I found is actually like, it's more spiky than that. So they'll do a bunch for like 3 months and then they'll kind of back off for a few months and they'll do more 3 months later and that kind of thing. But in bigger enterprises, they're also producing other content that they need edited. So if they're like, hey, we have one customer in particular that I'm thinking of that they need like 24 articles within a quarter, but then they also have about another 15,000 words a quarter of content that other teams are producing that this team was responsible for editing. So like, we're just going to send that to you as well. So we kind of create like a custom package for them, So, so it's not as tight as like, $4.95 a month for X article for X words per month, that sort of thing. Like then you get into like rollovers. And if they've only used like, 10,000 of the 15,000, then they're like, well, I'm not using it. So I'm just going to cancel completely. I'm like, but you are using 10,000. Like, let's go down to 10,000, I'm like, what, why are we just quitting? And it happens all the time. So yeah, I'm constantly trying to like overcome that. And so we find putting together like the custom package, based off of like our productized like delivery and like pricing is what works best for most people. And especially as we go up market, as we go to like bigger companies, we're mainly focusing on companies that are doing 2.5 million plus a year. It's kind of who we're focusing on. If you're smaller than that, like we can do great work for you. We just know that you're probably going to churn out in 3 to 6 months when you decide that content isn't what you want to do, which is fine, but it's just also reality of my business. And it costs us as much to onboard someone that pays us $500 a month and sticks for 4 months as it costs us to onboard someone that is paying us $5,000 a month and stays for 3 years. So it's a matter of focus at this point.
I'm going to try to find the best way to phrase this, but I like what you said about, people who have a certain, multi-million-dollar threshold that you look at to say, this is the right client for me, when, somebody could be doing $250,000 a year. And they're like, I need 4 blog posts a month. Like, I need that. Like, why wouldn't you be a good fit for EditorNinja? What do you think they're missing in their business that makes you want to work with a multi-million-dollar revenue per year business? That the smaller companies, though they need content, they're missing something. What's the something?
It's a great question. One I've been thinking about a lot recently, actually. And the reason is because the person who's doing $250,000 a year, two things. One, they don't yet know what works to grow their business, because if they did, they would be at 2.5 million a year. So they're trying out a bunch of things. And also, kind of depending on who the company is, who they're competing against. Like usually, I mean, especially like in the WordPress space, right? Let's just talk about the WordPress space. They're competing against Post Status and WP Beginner and all these sites that like content is their business. 4 blog articles a month isn't going to do anything for you. You need like 400 blog articles published, and 4 articles a month is going to take you 100 months, 7 years, something like that, 6 years, 7 years. Yeah. To produce all of that content. It's just not going to be effective for you. You know, there are other channels that are going to be more effective for you to get you to 1 million, 2 million a year than content. And so what we see is people will come in and they're like, I need 4 blog articles a month. We'll do it. And then after a few months, they're like, I'm not seeing an uptick in traffic. I'm like, yeah, because you're not doing enough. You also don't have the budget to do more. And so they churn and they're like, oh, we're going to go try ads. So I've just seen this time and time and time again. And here's the thing, Matt, I do it too. I do with my own business. We're at like, 500-600K a year. It's like we've done like a lot more Google ads at one point. And when we try LinkedIn ads and we'll try like we're like an ADHD squirrel, versus companies that are at like, I call my 6-year-old that as well, by the way. Versus like companies that are at like 2.5, 3, 5 million a year. Like they know what's worked to get them to that point, and they have a defined budget. They're not like, we're going to try this thing. And like, how cheap can I get blog articles? They're like, hey, we've got $100,000 a year to spend on content marketing. And it's going to be some combination of like content being like shorter blog articles, top of funnel stuff, middle of funnel stuff, downloadables, like all of that. And they usually have someone, and really like it's that revenue line, but also they have someone in charge of content. So it's not a founder that's like doing 12 other jobs, but like they have a head of content or a content manager or someone like that it is their job to use content to grow the business. And so if they have that person is focused on that thing specifically. And so they're going to be much more reliable. They're going to have a better strategy. They're going to be much more communicative versus like we'll get ghosted by founders for like 2 months, right? We're still producing content. We're like, hey, you're still paying us, but you're also not telling us what to do. It'd be like having a full-time developer and then, or a part-time developer that you're paying a retainer and not giving them any work. It's the same thing. So especially like more like technical founders and that kind of thing, they don't know how to value it. They don't know how to like, give direction and all of that. So once a company gets bigger, they have someone who actually does. So that's why we're focusing down on them. Plus those bigger companies are willing to sign longer term contracts. They're willing to, pay more up front. They recognize they're going to have to give more feedback from the start. Like they're not trying to like abdicate it and be like, just go do my content marketing, right? They're like, you are a piece of our production puzzle.
All right, using myself as another prime example of running an agency, trying to find ways to do product or productized service. I think one of the things we fall into is like as soon as you get to the bigger, well, not everybody, me specifically, you could fill in the lines. As soon as you go into the bigger clients, there's more people, there's more departments, there's more staff, and oftentimes I found that there are more requirements, like more demands anyway, where you might have a brand that you're working with that has like a whole YouTube side of the marketing team, right? We have a team who just does YouTube. We have a team who just does TikTok and Instagram reels and things like that. We have writers on staff. That's why we're hiring you for editing. And what I've found is, multi layers of management and marketing. And they eventually go, well, can we bring on EditorNinja into the room? I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And I found that there's just a higher touch, right? You're charging more because you're probably an agency. So how do you wrestle with that? Like, has that happened to you when you start working with those bigger customers that go, we're glad that you do editing and you do writing, but we need you to be on the all hands meeting at least once a quarter, whatever. Have you run into that and how do you deal with it?
Yeah. It's interesting. We've actually never been asked to like get on a call with our YouTube person, get on a call with our LinkedIn person or something like that. Mainly because the person that has hired us is the strategist. Like we are purely a production shop. Like we don't do any strategy. We are not your content marketing agency that's putting together your keyword strategy and optimizing your SEO and all of that. Like, no, you give us the requirements and we do it for you. And we send it back to you and we do it on time and we do it well and we charge a fair price. So yeah, we've actually never been asked for it. I think that's kind of what you have to do as well. Like if we did say that we did like content strategy or keyword research and that sort of stuff, I'm sure we would get these requests for the other areas, but we haven't, just because we unabashedly say we are a production shop, So, and this is what I've seen from like successful productized services like Design Pickle and Superside and, a bunch of those, is they're like, or even like, Design Joy, like Brett at Design Joy. I don't know Brett personally, but like, he makes a lot of money and he's like, I don't do calls. I don't do like any of this stuff. You add requests to a Trello board and I get it done for you. Right. It's like, you have to set those expectations really tight. And I'm far enough into my journey of like running agencies and working at agencies and all of that, that like, I'm willing to say like, we do that, we don't do that. And I heard, so last week I went to, I bet a lot of the people that are listening to this, maybe you yourself have heard of Alex Hormozy and acquisition.com. So I went to one of their scaling workshops last week in Las Vegas. It was great. One thing that Alex says I really like is you're always going to leave money on the table. And the more your business grows, the more money you're going to leave on the table, because the opportunities are going to be bigger because you are interacting with more successful people. So it comes down to, our focus is actually the volume and size of quote unquote opportunities that you're willing to say no to. So like someone asked me for strategy, or they asked me to like consult with them on SEO, because like that's my background, and they're willing to pay me whatever per month. Me saying no to them to focus on EditorNinja is like that is money that I could have made, but I am choosing to say no to that easy short-term money to say yes to like the bigger long-term money. So you just have to be really clear about what it is that you offer, and really clear on what it is that you don't offer, and recognize that people are also going to ask you for that thing that you don't offer, and you have to get good at saying no. And it's not like oh no, I don't do that, right? Like it's more of a like, that's not something that we offer. I have some people that I could refer you to, and if you want me to refer them to you, great. I refer you to them, great. I can do that, but that's not something that we offer. This is what we offer. And if that loses you the deal, it loses you the deal. And honestly, like if you hear enough of those, like this is why I layered on writing, because I had people asking me like, can you also write for us? Can you also write for us? No, we don't do that. No, we don't do that. And I lost a few big deals with like agencies doing $6, $8, $10 million a year that they didn't sign on with us because we didn't write. And then we had a few others that signed on with us and churned because the writers that they had weren't good. So I'm like, why don't we just bring all this in-house and offer it as kind of like a fuller suite? Because that's what these bigger like clients seem to want. And it's worked very well. We've tripled in the last like 12 months. So like it's worked very well. But it needs to be a very strategic thing. And so for us, it was like, we're editing and we're writing, and then like, we also have our dedicated editor, like offering to work in their systems. So we can also like upload it. And if you give them the Canva templates and all of that, like they could create a featured image for you, right? They could schedule it, like we can do these things. So we're kind of like expanding, but it's not expanding from like production to strategy or from production of content to web development. We're fulfilling more of the full need of content production, if that makes sense.
All right, I want to pull you into this debate that's been going on recently, sort of crossed over to more than a debate, unfortunately, but the $5,000 website, this is something, or a $5,000 client, this is something that, when I started this podcast like 15 years ago, it was like the $500 website, and like, how do you, make money with that? But over my time, especially working at Pagely and selling into the enterprise, the concept of account-based marketing, I've heard a lot of other agency owners talk about this as well. Agencies that do, six-figure deals at minimum to get into, web development for a big brand, going downstream and selling something for like $5,000, $10,000 just to get in the door. And then you branch off into account-based marketing, especially if this, organization has many brands or many divisions that you could potentially sell into. Kind of feel the same way with small businesses too. Like, I think small businesses, it's not that they don't have the money, it's just that they have to be a lot more reserved with the cash on hand to invest into like building a website or hiring a freelancer. So what I'm getting at here is like your take on account-based marketing or account-based selling, maybe selling at a lower dollar and then adding on the services later, without saying like nickel and diming somebody, but like, here's the offer, here's the entry offer. It's valuable. We're doing the work for you, but eventually you could grow this way. And it's a lot easier to sell to the customers you already have, obviously, than acquiring new customers. So your thoughts, account-based selling and, finding those opportunities that way.
No, I'm not fully against it. I would say that is great if it is done strategically. So like us, for example, someone that comes to us, like to use the example of like someone doing $250,000 a year in revenue, they're never going to go, they're not Disney, right? They're never going to go to, 40 articles a month, 400 articles a month. It's just not going to happen. It's just not there, right? And like, I know what my customer acquisition costs are. So it's literally going to take me, 9 months of creating 4 articles a month for them for us to be profitable on that based off of like my cost of delivery and my acquisition costs and time spent and ops costs and like all that stuff, right? So if they churn before 9 months, I've lost money on that. So there's not that chance for expansion. But if it's like, hey, and we've done this quite a bit and we're like trying to get a lot better at it, is like agency comes to us, they're like, we have these 3 clients that we don't have coverage for anymore. Like our account executive left or our account manager left or editor left or something like that. We'll start there. But I also let them know from the start, I'm like, hey, let's start there. But in 90 days, I want to have a conversation about getting all of your accounts, right? That is fine. And if you're a bigger company, I mean, I know Pagely sold, right? Pagely got acquired for like a lot of dollars, right? I mean, I see Josh driving his supercar. So like sold for a lot of dollars. Awesome. Like, I mean, phenomenal. Like I celebrate that. That's absolutely incredible. I'm so happy for you guys. But, you have the funds to do that play strategically, to lose money for 90 days, 180 days, even like a year on an account like that, because you know that it's going to grow and you have the infrastructure built to do that. That is great, right? But like to use your example, if someone balks at $5,000 for a website, don't lower the price thinking that they're going to bring you a bunch more work if it's like one website for an SMB, right? Like the price is the price. That what I tell people is like, the price is the price. If you need a lower price, we can talk about that, but you can't get $5,000 worth of work for $2,500. You can get $2,500 worth of work for $2,500, right? Let's trim back the scope. But if you need all of these things, the price is $5,000, If you pay up front and can give us 6 months to do it, maybe I can lower that to $4,500, right? So you can like make some concessions like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, like this stuff has to be strategic. So I'm not saying that like we're not going to go back down market to like, I used to message a lot more, and I'll see if someone comes to us and they're like, hey, I need 4 articles a month for the next 6 months. So it's like 24 articles. I can work it so that it works for me, so I can recoup a lot of that cash up front. Like, totally fine. Like I'm not going to turn them away, but we've actually just recently started messaging bigger numbers for editing and bigger numbers for writing and all of that. Because if someone comes to us and they're doing $10 million, an agency's doing $10 million a year, and we're talking about 4 articles, they're like, I need 400. Can you handle it? So for some of it is just like the messaging of it that I want bigger companies to say like, oh, this like EditorNinja works with bigger companies. And then you're still going to get the little guys that are like, well, I only need 4 or I only need 8. Okay, let's chat about that, right? You still get like when you niche down, you still get the people that like want it to be a good fit for them. And then it's just up to me to be like, okay, are we a good fit or not? Do we have that capacity? Because if we only have capacity for like 4 articles at that point and we're trying to like scale or we have someone that like, could use more work, or we're trying to get them trained up or something like that, like I might sign that on once again, strategically, because it's furthering my business. Right. But if I'm messaging that we're going to turn away our best clients, our best prospects aren't even going to contact us because they're like, oh, you just work with little guys. I'm like, no, we actually want to work with the big guys. So we have to message the bigger numbers.
All right. We've been teasing the AI thing throughout the episode. You sell your agency, you have the idea for EditorNinja, you're about to embark on it. ChatGPT comes out more commercially, like more end user-ish. And people are talking about, man, I can just make blog posts with AI. I mean, there were other competitors out there prior to like ChatGPT becoming more like of a household name, but now specifically, people are signing up and doing this stuff. What went through your head? Did you like have to rush and like think about repositioning the offering, the service? What went through your head when ChatGPT came out?
Yeah. So after I sold Credo in September of 2022, then I basically realized I was super burned out and like kind of worked very little for that next quarter. And then I was going full time on EditorNinja. Actually, Chris Lemma, who I'm sure you've had on the show, and I'm sure everyone listening to this knows, Chris was my business coach at the time. And I was like, Chris, we were talking early January. I'm like, Chris, this thing isn't growing. And he's like, you actually need to work on it in order to make it grow, right? I'm like, fair point. But before I like started working on it full time, I went to a small like private mastermind in Costa Rica with about 80 other entrepreneurs. And when I told people what I did or what EditorNinja did, they were like, how does AI affect that? Like literally every person, that was the next question. And at first I'm like, I don't know. By the end of that week, I was like, okay, here's what's going to happen. The next like 3 to 6 months, people are going to be figuring it out. Then we're going to see some interesting use cases. And then we're going to see some companies launch like around specifically using AI. And so I suspect within a couple of years, most of the content we're producing and editing is going to be produced via AI. I was 100% right, Matt. We went from like 80%, 90% human written, and then, the balance AI created to now that is flipped. It's like 70, 80% of the content we edit is at least drafted using AI, and then probably a human or subject matter expert has worked with it, and then it comes to us for editing. And the editing is like removing, like it's humanization is what people call it. It's removing of, the words that AI loves to use. It's making sure like commas are in the right place, everything's formatted, and, paragraphs aren't too long and all of that sort of thing. So it's a lot of like formatting, copy editing, proofreading, that sort of thing. We don't see as many typos as we used to see, or your, there, like all that sort of stuff. Like that's not really like needed anymore, but it's just like, does this read like a human wrote it? And so that's a lot of what we're doing these days. And it's fine. Like the work it's just different work from like a human writing it. We also see that people are relying on editors a lot more to do like some of the work that writers were doing that they didn't really recognize, that even like more junior writers were doing in terms of like logic and organization and that sort of thing. So the editing is like kind of a hybrid between like writing and editing, which is why we charge more for it, because it's more work and it's a different skill set. But that's totally fine. Like I think AI is great. I mean, I use it as a thought partner. I use it for like drafting of ideas. I use it for working through like logic and that sort of stuff. But it's like me going and doing the work. And this is the other thing that people don't realize about like AI. They're like, oh, I can go and create like 100 articles, right? I'm like, yeah, but that's still you doing it. Like, it's still going to take you a lot of time. And then once you have those 100 articles, are you going to go through and edit all of them? Like, editing is where the magic happens. That's what Brian Clark from Copyblogger told me a few years ago. He's like, editing is where the magic happens. And so if you think that you can just go like create a bunch of blog articles with AI and publish them and they're going to rank, they're going to drive results for your business, you're wrong, basically. And so what we've found is people will be like, they'll launch like an AI content creation offering or some sort. We had one agency that we were working with in the legal space that they were signing on lawyer clients and redoing their website and creating new service pages and that sort of thing, right? Personal injury attorney, Boston, Massachusetts, like that sort of thing, creating all that text with AI. And now they're like, we have 250,000 words a month that need to be reviewed and humanized and edited, right? And they had no way to scale that up. So they just plugged us in. I mean, literally within a week, we were cranking out 25,000 words a day for them. So that's what we see happen with people. And they'll come to us scrambling. They're like, we have so much content that we need edited. I'm like, good thing we are here and we can do that for you.
All right, getting close to wrapping up here. It's interesting that you found like this shift. And it's interesting where like the market went, where they were like, oh, we need a content writer. Let's hire John. And then suddenly they were like, well, you know what? We can make all this content with AI. So let's just keep the content in-house. And then they realized, oh, wait, now we need somebody to edit the content. It's just like, we should have just kept John, as the writer to begin with. But hey, you're doing well with obviously EditorNinja and the editing services part of it. But I'm curious, like, how you see this affect the market at AI, how it affects the market at a greater volume, right? For either the freelance writers out there or like insert AI to any task-based job. like, how does the market survive this? What's your take on how AI is reshaping this workforce, I guess, for lack of a better phrase?
Yeah, it's tough, honestly. Like I've seen a lot of freelance content writers and that type that have gone back in house, or they've just like really struggling to find clients. Like it's a bloodbath out there. I think there's two things. One is if you're it's tough for juniors. I don't know what junior people should do in this case. Honestly, they should learn to use AI to do better work and do it faster. And just realize they're kind of getting into the volume game. People that are more senior need to lean into being more senior. They need to specialize. They need to lean into being more senior. That AI can't replace a human brain, can't replace a human strategist, and also say that like, hey, I'm also using AI to make myself more effective. To make my work more effective. But just because my work is more effective doesn't mean that it's less valuable, like to them. So like to the enterprise. So I actually hold more firm on pricing than a lot of other people do. And I say like, hey, like I try to go much more towards value pricing than like hourly. Like I don't like hourly simply because if you're a more senior person and you can do work faster, you're basically being punished for doing work faster. You're doing better work and you're doing it faster than a junior person. And so you're being punished for being more efficient. So I very much try to go towards like value pricing. I was like, all right, we have this campaign and I can do it, or you need this strategy and I can do it for X dollars, right? And if you're, a more senior person, and you can do it in half the time than you used to be able to, guess what? You just got 100% pay raise because you can take on twice the projects, but also like, you're not going to be able to do that with kind of the bottom of the market and people that are nickel and diming you on like per word or, per hour, like that sort of thing. You got to go up market. You got to target bigger enterprises.
John Doherty, EditorNinja.com. Where else can folks go to say thanks?
Yeah. EditorNinja.com, and then also LinkedIn is where I hang out primarily these days. I quit Twitter a while ago. I actually logged in there yesterday for the first time just to post one, for the first time in like 4 months, to post one thing and then log back out. I'm like, I'm done. I'm on Blue Sky as well, but LinkedIn is where I'm primarily talking about business stuff. And also Editor Ninja has a YouTube channel that I'm starting to get like rocking and rolling. So, as you can see, I've got like a good camera, I've got a good like microphone and all of that. And I actually did a lot of video editing when I was in high school and college. I actually went to college initially to do that, didn't get into the program, so went into writing and web development. But I love video, so I'm doing a lot more of that. And I think there's a big space for people to kind of for someone to do a lot more content around like agencies and pricing and signing clients and all of that. And that's what I've done for a long time, especially with my last agency. So feel free to find us there. Just search Editor Ninja on YouTube and give us a follow.